Hello everyone, I'm much better. Thank you again for all the wonderful well wishes, and we've had some pleasant weather, so I've been out harvesting roots for medicine, but also, as you can see here, roots for food. But these are also medicine, and I'll tell you why quickly before I move on to show you the roots that I've harvested for medicine and what I'm going to be doing with them. So obviously carrots, highly nutritious, lots of vitamin A and beta carotenes. These are an old heirloom variety, so they look a bit like parsnips. They're a yellow carrot. And then I've got beetroots here. I absolutely adore and love beetroots. I eat them raw in salads. I make flans and quiches with them and burgers, and we juice a lot of them. I'm going to make some chutney with these. But the good thing about beetroots is not only do they clean your blood, but they also clean and support and help your liver to work more effectively, and they can reduce high blood pressure. So very good idea to have beetroots in your diet, apart from all the nutrients as well. And then turnips, I've got a couple of turnips here. Turnips are a root vegetable along with carrots and parsnips, and they all come at just the right time because autumn harvest, we're moving into winter. We want to protect our immune systems. We want to be free from winter colds and coughs and all those other bugs that are flying around. And your root veg, your carrots, your beetroots, your turnips, they all support the spleen, and the spleen is part of our immune system. So try to include lots of root vegetables in your diet coming up to winter, and obviously when we're in winter as well. So they're the kind of food as medicine, and now I'm going to be showing you something to do with herbal medicine, but using the roots of the plants. It's such a beautiful day today to be out. It's a real autumn day with the low sunshine, and it's wind free, which is a bonus. And as you might know, this garden does tend to become overrun with so-called weeds. But whenever I see dandelions coming up anywhere, I tend to leave them because they make such wonderful medicine. And I suppose I prefer to gather them in the autumn when all the energy from the summer sun is going down into the roots. But some people harvest them in springtime, just before the energy begins to move up again. It's personal preference really, but I just think I like to gather all my roots in autumn on a perfect day like this. And it's just lovely to see all the different kinds of shapes and colours, and some are vegetables and some are wild. Sorry, Brock, I haven't got time at the moment. He's always looking for tummy tickles, but he'll just have to wait. And now we'll go and look at some other herbs. And this is elecampane. And elecampane is a beautiful, I suppose people call it a wild sunflower. It makes a beautiful sunflower head that the pollinators absolutely love. And then when they go to seed, the birds love them. And of course, it makes beautiful, wonderful medicine as well. So this is the elecampane, and as you can see, several roots here coming off a couple of plants. So I'm going to take half of them, I'm going to break this in half, take half of them and plant them back again for more plants. You know, it's just dividing. So this is the horseradish. You can see the leaves are different. So there's an elecampane leaf, and obviously these are a bit tatty now, but they are a different shape and a different structure. Oh, the smell is incredible. Beautiful fresh horseradish. Now, there you go, that's what you need in your fire cider, or you can make tincture with it. But we'll talk about what the purposes are inside. So the roots that I dug up are horseradish, dandelion, elecampane and some rhubarb. And when I was ill with the kidney stone thing, a lovely friend, Mary Turbine, sent me this book. It's Health Through God's Pharmacy by Maria Treben, and it's going back to post-war Europe. And this lady has discovered herbal medicine, and she is overwhelmed at how wonderful it is. And so she's written this book, and inside the book she includes a section on bitters. So I'm going to be making some bitters shortly, and that's why I'm using these herbs as well. But the horseradish isn't a bitter really, but it is a stomachache. It's very good for the stomach. It helps with worms. It's incredibly warming, and it's also very good for the respiratory system. So I made some horseradish tincture last year, and I will make a little bit more this year. But I'm also going to make horseradish and beetroot pickle or chutney or something like that. So you can see horseradish is not just a condiment. It is a powerful medicine. It's carminative, it's stimulating, it's warming, kind of like ginger, but it also helps to expel worms, and it's wonderful for blocked, when you've got a lot of phlegm blocking your lungs, or you've got sinusitis. Just from grating it, everything begins to run. You just have a clear out, a complete clear out. So it's very good for clearing the head when you're blocked with phlegm. And then of course we've got the lovely dandelion here. Again, the leaves are very good for the kidneys. The roots are very good for the liver, for cleansing and toning and supporting. And it's a bitter herb, so it's going to stimulate the digestion. But also, I think I've mentioned before, bitter herbs have receptors in every system of the body. So that's why I'm going to make some bitters today, because I'm going to be taking bitters in the future, as I've been taking up until recently, but I'm running out now. So some of this will be going into a tincture, and some of this will be going into my bitters. And then elecampane is, I'm going to put this into the bitters as well, because it has certain properties for the digestive system, but it's the kind of number one root herb for the respiratory system. So whether you have asthma, bronchitis, whooping cough, just a general cough, if you have heavy phlegm, if you have emphysema, if you have COPD, elecampane is going to be the herb for you, because it just clears everything and supports the respiratory system. But because of its action on the digestive system, I'm going to include it in my bitters. So I'm also going to put in a little bit of aloe. It's an incredibly cleansing plant. It's very good for removing worms. It's a purgative, so you only need a small amount. So I'm only going to put in a spoonful of this, because I haven't actually used it internally before. It's normally used, for burns and for bites and stings and things. So I'm just going to put in a spoonful. It's a very gentle, soothing herb for the whole stomach and digestive system. So these bitters are going to be bitter, but they're also, it's my own take on Maria Treben's. And then, where's my chamomile? Chamomile is a mildly bitter herb. Again, it's great for the digestive system, so that's going in as well. So last year I'd harvested lots of elecampane and I made my tincture, and I also dried a lot. I know you can't smell it, it's not aroma vision, unfortunately, but I'm just going to put some of this onto the top of the range because it makes the most divine kind of incense. So when I make a dandelion tincture, I include leaf and root, so it's a whole plant, and if there's any flowers they go in as well. And so I'm just going to show you how I make a dandelion tincture. I've shown you before, but for any of the lovely new subscribers, you may not have seen this. So you have your jar, a clean jar. I never wash the roots. I never wash anything. And what I've done with this is I've used a dry brush to take off all the excess soil. The soil was quite dry. So what I'm going to do with some of this now to make my tincture is I'm just going to actually snip the roots into this jar. The dandelion root, apart from being excellent in a tincture, and it's going into the bitters as well, but if you're trying to reduce your coffee intake, you can make coffee with dandelion root. Just roast it very gently and slowly in the oven until it's crisp, and then you can chop it up and you can put it through your coffee grinder just as you would a coffee bean. And to me, I'm not a coffee expert, I rarely drink coffee, but to me it tastes like coffee. Lol would disagree, but you know. So I've chopped up the leaves with the scissors to make them smaller, and I'm just going to blast them now with the knife so that they're the smallest possible particles going into the jar, so that there's more coverage for extraction. So I've got roots and leaves and a couple of little roots back on top, and now I'm going to cover that with vodka. So put the lid on, make your label and put today's date on, because I leave it to infuse for 6 weeks. Now this is mainly leaf, so it's a dandelion leaf and root. And I put today's date on and I leave that for 6 weeks to infuse. Then I strain it out and I'll put it into another bottle. And I'll have another source of dandelion tincture. So anyway, I'm going to start chopping the roots up for the bitters. So bitters, just to refresh, bitters are excellent for the digestive system, because when you take that bitter drink, it stimulates the flow of saliva, which sends a signal down to the esophagus, down to the stomach, down to every other part. And it means that your body works better to digest your food and extract all the nutrients. And each ingredient in the bitters formula plays its own role. So for example, when I put in the chamomile is a gentle bitter. It's also going to help with flatulence. It's going to soothe the membranes and relieve any cramps and bloating and gas. And put it all in. So I've got chamomile in. So now I'm going to chop the dandelion, because dandelion is very bitter anyway. So you see, you could put in yellow dock, you could put in yarrow. In fact, I've got some yarrow there. I might put a bit of yarrow in. I'm going to put in a little bit of elecampane. Elecampane also contains something called inulin, which is very beneficial for helping to balance your blood sugars. So it could be helpful if your blood sugars are getting high and you're concerned about diabetes. Elecampane can help with that. I'm going to get some little bits of horseradish. Because I want to save some to grate, as I said, for a pickle. So I'm just going to take a little bit because it is very hot, and this will just make the bitters more warming, more sympathetic to the stomach. So I'm going to chop these up as well. The pièce de résistance, wormwood. So I'm just going to garble this and throw it in. And I'm going to put in a little bit of yarrow as well, which I have here on the shelf for tea. So wormwood is exceptionally bitter. And of course it is an anti-wormer. It's going to remove worms. And it seems like it's very trendy these days. Everybody has worms, which is probably was always the case. And especially if you have pets, you're going to be picking up worms. But you know, I wouldn't get too hung up on worms because some of them have a synergistic action with the host. So you'd need to do research. But anyway, wormwood is not going to do any harm in terms of getting rid of those worms, but it's also extremely bitter, which is why it is pretty much, you know, the main ingredient in bitters. So when we dry plants and we want to remove the leaves and flowers from the stems, you hold it at the top and you just pull your hands down and remove them all like that, and they just come off. That's called garbling. It's just a technique. It's very easy to remove all. Oh my goodness, I can smell it. It's so aromatic. It's very resinous and it makes you feel quite nauseous actually when there's so much of it like here now. I'll just give it a little extra chop. So I'm just going to throw that in. So I've got some yarrow tea here from the shelf, which is dried yarrow. So you can have it as tea or you can have it for other. I'm just going to put a little bit in here. That's also very bitter. Also wonderful digestive aid, amongst other things. It's also good for me because it can help reduce high blood pressure. So, you know, making your bitters, you just can't lose. So now I'm going to put in the aloe vera gel, and I'm going to cut the leaf, scoop it out with a spoon, scoop out the gel with a spoon and just drip it into the jar here. And what the aloe does, it's a very gentle purgative. So if you have constipation, again, it's going to remove worms from the gut, and it's also going to soothe any mucous membranes. So it's a digestive aid in that it's going to get everything moving nice and gently. Now, some people make their bitters with vodka. I like to use brandy just because brandy is good for the stomach and helpful as an aperitif, so it tastes a bit nicer. I'm just pushing down any plant material that is above the surface. I'm going to have to top this up with another bottle of brandy, but for now I'm just pushing everything down. We don't want too much oxygen in the jar because we don't want anything to go off if it's above the surface. So that will do for now, and then we'll top that up with our new bottle of brandy. And then that sits for 6 weeks, it gets strained out, and then you have your bottle of bitters. This is ours, it's almost empty as you can see. So you take about a half a teaspoon, 5 ml to 10 ml in a little drop of water before meals, particularly if you're having a big heavy meal. And it just acts as a digestive aid, gets your body prepped and primed, ready for digesting the food. But as Maria Trebens says in her book, you can use bitters for all kinds of health issues. You can also use it as a compress, which means you would take some of the liquid and put it onto a cloth such as muslin or a piece of cotton, and you could lay it onto different parts of the body that are aching or in need of help. So my recipe is not the same as Maria Trebens, but it's always worked very well for me. And one final thing, if you find because of the wormwood, or because you've put so many really bitter herbs in that it's not palatable, top it up with a little bit more brandy and leave it, just when you've strained it, just add a little bit more brandy to make it a little bit more tasty. So there you go, lots of things to be doing with our root vegetables. We can eat them for our immune system, we can make tinctures, and we can make bitters. Lots of medicine to be gathered, so I hope you have wonderful times out there in the hedgerows, in the vegetable garden and elsewhere, collecting your medicine for winter as well. So I'll see you next week. Let's tidy it up here now. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the weed handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.